Death is the one journey every human being will take, yet it remains the most misunderstood, feared, and mysterious experience of all. From the moment we are born, time begins to move us toward this inevitable doorway. People avoid talking about it, avoid thinking about it, and try to distract themselves from its reality. But the truth is, death is not the end, it is a transition. This video is not meant to create fear, but to bring understanding, peace, and spiritual awareness. Because when you truly know what happens after death, life itself begins to make much more sense. The body you live in is not who you truly are. It is only a temporary vessel, made from dust, time, and breath. Inside this body lives the soul, eternal, conscious, and aware. When death comes, it is not the soul that dies, it is only the body that stops functioning. Breath leaves the lungs, the heart stops beating, and the physical world fades, but the soul awakens to a reality far greater than the one it leaves behind. At the moment of death, many people experience what feels like separation. The soul gently detaches from the physical body. For some, this happens suddenly. For others, it unfolds slowly. People who have had near-death experiences often describe a feeling of lightness, peace, and clarity. Pain disappears. Fear dissolves. The weight of the physical world lifts. It is as if the soul finally remembers who it truly is. As the soul leaves the body, awareness does not vanish. It expands. You may become aware of your surroundings from above, watching your body, your loved ones, and the room you once occupied. Time no longer feels linear. Past, present, and future seem to blend into a single awareness. This is because the soul does not live in time the way the body does. Then comes the next phase, the crossing. Many spiritual traditions describe a passage from the physical world into the spiritual realm. Some call it a tunnel of light. Others describe it as a doorway, a bridge, or a call. What remains consistent across cultures and beliefs is the presence of light, warm, intelligent, and deeply loving. This light does not judge, it understands. As the soul moves toward this light, it carries with it the essence of its earthly life. Not possessions, not titles, not wealth, but intentions, actions, love, and choices. Everything hidden becomes visible, not to shame the soul, but to reveal truth. This is often referred to as the life review. During the life review, the soul experiences its entire life, not just through its own eyes, but through the eyes of others. Every act of kindness is felt again. Every word spoken in love returns multiplied. And every moment of harm, neglect, or cruelty is also felt, but not as punishment. Instead, it is experienced as understanding. The soul learns how deeply every action affected others. This is one of the most powerful truths about what happens after death. Judgment is not external, it is internal. God, the universe, or divine consciousness does not need to condemn the soul. The soul already knows. And in that knowing, growth begins. For souls that lived with love, compassion, humility, and faith, the transition feels peaceful. There is a sense of returning home. A deep familiarity arises, as if the soul remembers this place from before birth. Loved ones who passed before may appear, not as they were when they died, but as radiant, joyful beings. Communication happens without words, through thought and feeling. For souls that live disconnected from love, consumed by ego, hatred, or selfishness, the experience may feel different. There may be confusion, heaviness, or regret. Not because God rejects them, but because the soul must first face what it avoided in life. This is not eternal punishment. It is correction, healing, and awakening. Heaven and hell are often misunderstood as physical places. In reality, they are states of consciousness. Heaven is alignment with divine love, truth, and peace. Hell is separation from that alignment. And separation is not imposed. It is chosen by how one lived, thought, and loved. After death, the soul enters a realm that matches its spiritual state. Some souls rest, some learn, some heal, some prepare for another journey. Growth does not stop at death, it continues. The universe is not cruel, it is purposeful. Every soul is guided, even when it does not realize it. One of the most comforting truths is this: no soul is ever abandoned. Even the most broken, lost, or sinful soul is still known by God. Divine mercy is greater than human failure. What matters most is not perfection, but direction. Not flawlessness, but humility. Many ask, will we recognize our loved ones after death? The answer, spiritually speaking, is yes, but not in the limited way we do on earth. Recognition happens at the soul level. You will know them instantly, beyond faces or names. Love does not disappear at death. It becomes clearer, purer, and stronger. Another common question is, will we remember our life on earth? Yes, but without pain, ego, or attachment. Memories become lessons, not burdens. Regret transforms into wisdom. Loss transforms into understanding. And what about unfinished business? Souls that leave the world suddenly or with unresolved emotions may experience a temporary period of reflection. This is not punishment. It is adjustment. Just as a newborn must adjust to life outside the womb, the soul must adjust to life outside the body. Eventually, every soul reaches a state of peace. Time in the spiritual realm does not function like time on earth. What feels like a long process here may be only a moment there. Healing is gentle. Guidance is constant. Some souls choose to return, to be reborn into another life, another body, another opportunity. This is not random. It is intentional. Lessons unfinished are continued. Love unexpressed is given another chance. This is what many traditions call reincarnation, not as a cycle of punishment, but as a school of the soul. Others remain in higher spiritual realms, serving as guides, guardians, or messengers. They assist those still living, often without being seen. Many people feel their presence as intuition, protection, or sudden peace. That is not imagination. It is connection. Death also strips away illusions. On earth, people chase status, power, money, and approval. After death, none of these matter. The only currency that exists is love. How much love you gave, how deeply you lived in truth. This is why life itself is sacred. It is preparation. This video is not meant to tell you when death will come, but to remind you how to live before it does. When you understand what happens after death, fear loses its grip. You stop living for appearances and start living for meaning. You forgive more easily. You love more deeply. You waste less time. Death is not the enemy. Ignorance is. Fear is. Disconnection is. When death arrives, it does not come as a thief. It comes as a guide. It leads the soul where it truly belongs. So if you are watching this and feeling something stir inside you, that is not coincidence. It is remembrance. Your soul already knows this truth. This video is only reminding you of what you once forgot. Live in such a way that when death comes, it feels like returning home, not running away. Speak words that you would not regret hearing again. Love people as if you will meet them again. Because spiritually, you will. In the end, death is not the closing of a story. It is the turning of a page. And what awaits on the other side is not darkness, but understanding, light, and truth. If this message reached you, it means your soul is ready to awaken. Remember, life prepares you for death, and death reveals the truth of life. There is something even more profound about what happens after death, something rarely spoken about. After the soul crosses into the spiritual realm, it does not immediately lose interest in the earthly world. For a time, the soul becomes deeply aware of how temporary life truly was. Moments that once felt urgent now feel small. Arguments that seemed important dissolve into silence. And love, real love, stands out as the only thing that ever mattered. Many souls feel a deep sense of clarity after death. Questions that haunted them in life suddenly have answers. The soul realizes that every experience, joyful or painful, was part of a larger design. Even suffering was not meaningless. It shaped compassion. It softened the heart. It prepared the soul for wisdom. One of the greatest revelations after death is understanding why certain things happened the way they did. Why prayers were not answered the way you wanted. Why people left your life. Why doors closed. Why pain stayed longer than expected. From the spiritual side, the soul sees how protection often looked like loss, and how delays were actually divine timing. Souls also realize something else. Nothing was wasted, not a single tear, not a single lonely night, not a single unanswered question. Everything was recorded, not as data, but as growth. The soul understands that Earth was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be purposeful. After death, the soul also becomes aware of how connected everything truly is. On Earth, we feel separate. Me versus you, us versus them. But in the spiritual realm, separation disappears. The soul feels unity. It realizes that harming another was harming itself, and loving another was loving itself. This realization is deeply humbling and transformative. Some souls, especially those who lived with deep emotional wounds, experience a powerful phase of healing. Imagine a place where there is no judgment, no comparison, no pressure to perform. A place where the soul is gently restored, where shame is replaced with understanding, where regret is transformed into wisdom. This is not fantasy, it is spiritual restoration. You may wonder, what about people who did terrible things? This is one of the hardest truths to accept, but also one of the most powerful. After death, no soul escapes truth. But truth is not revenge, it is revelation. Souls who caused harm must fully experience the impact of their actions, not to be tortured, but to awaken empathy. This process can feel intense, but it is temporary and purposeful. Divine justice is always balanced with divine mercy. Another hidden truth about death is this: the soul becomes highly sensitive to vibration. In simple terms, this means the soul naturally moves toward environments that match its inner state. A loving soul is drawn to peace. A restless soul is drawn to reflection. This is why spiritual growth during life matters. It shapes where and how the soul experiences the afterlife. After death, communication does not end. It changes form. Souls often try to comfort their loved ones who are still living. They send signs, dreams, sudden memories, feelings of peace, repeated symbols. These are not accidents. They are gentle reminders. I am okay. You are not alone. However, grief can sometimes block this connection. Extreme sorrow weighs heavily on both sides. That is why spiritual traditions encourage acceptance, not forgetting, but trusting. Love continues beyond death, but attachment must soften for peace to flow. One of the most misunderstood ideas is that death separates us forever. Spiritually, death separates bodies, not souls. Relationships evolve, love matures, bonds remain. In fact, many connections feel stronger after death because they are no longer limited by ego, misunderstanding, or fear. Another powerful realization after death is understanding who you truly were. Titles fall away, roles disappear. You are not your job. You are not your failures. You are not your past mistakes. You are consciousness, learning, evolving, expanding. This realization brings immense peace. Souls also realize that life was much shorter than it felt. What seemed like decades feels like moments. This is why many souls express one deep truth: if I could go back, I would love more and fear less. This is not regret, it is wisdom. The soul also becomes aware of how guided life truly was. Missed accidents, unexpected help, sudden intuition, delayed plans, all signs of unseen protection. After death, the soul sees how many times it was saved without knowing it. There is also a phase where the soul reconnects with divine intelligence, what some call God, Source, or universal consciousness. This connection is not verbal. It is absolute knowing. There is no question of worth, no fear of rejection. The soul realizes it was never unloved, not even for a second. And then comes one of the most sacred realizations of all. Earth was not a punishment. It was a privilege, a rare opportunity to feel, choose, struggle, grow, and love in a physical form. The soul understands that being human was an honor. This is why life matters so deeply. Death does not make life meaningless. It makes it urgent, sacred, precious. When you know what happens after death, you stop asking shallow questions and start living with depth. You stop postponing love. You stop wasting time trying to impress people who won't matter beyond the grave. You begin to live for the soul, not the ego. If this message is touching something deep inside you, it is because part of you remembers, not with the mind, but with the soul. This knowledge is ancient. It has been whispered through scriptures, near-death experiences, mystics, and inner awakenings for thousands of years. Death is not something to fear. It is something to prepare for, not with anxiety, but with awareness. So live gently, speak truth, choose kindness when it is difficult. Trust that nothing done in love is ever lost, because when the final breath leaves the body, the soul does not ask, "How much did I have?" It asks, "How much did I love?" And that answer becomes your eternal companion.